There's an infrastructure project in the UK right now that feels like a no-brainer. Extend its reach across an underserved area of the country and improve the reliability and function of the railways across the region, even on lines that don't go to the airport. This is why Humberside Airport deserves a railway station. First, I think it's good to give you an introduction to Humberside Airport and what it is right now. Humberside Airport is a small regional airport located in the East Midlands, a bit of a way away from Grimsby and Hull. As of currently, Humberside mostly serves three kinds of flights. The first are offshore flights to energy installations and the like. The second are seasonal holiday flights for people going on chartered holidays and that kind of stuff. And third, these kinds of niche regional connections. These include places like Aberdeen and Jersey, but also Esbjerg, and thanks to KLM's "we need a flight from Amsterdam to all over the UK" policy, it's got a flight to Amsterdam as well. This is an interesting airport because I think it has lots of space to grow in the future. Recently, we've got news of the closure, as of right now, of Doncaster Sheffield Airport. Humberside Airport serves kind of the same catchment, but Humberside is also not nearly as well connected as other airports in the UK. A railway line runs right past it, but its nearby stop at Barnetby doesn't have an easy connection to the airport. It's only served directly by one bus service, the 4, which is just a regional bus that goes to Scunthorpe. This pretty much means that going by car is the best way to get to Humberside Airport, but taking the cars to airports are problematic in a few ways. The first is that unless you're getting someone to drop you off, airports parking tends to be quite expensive, especially if you're going for many days. There's also the fact that after you've come home on a flight, driving home, perhaps a long distance, is probably the last thing you want to do. People like to drink before getting on flights, and so transit connections to airports tend to take an outside importance compared to other kinds of destinations. And of course, there's the fact that when you arrive at an airport, you tend to not have a car, and so transit connections to get you to the nearby cities are extra important. The East Midlands in general is perhaps in need of better air connectivity for short or regional flights to Europe. If you look at a list of the busiest airports in the UK, you can see that there's only one open airport in the East Midlands represented here. Expanding Humberside a bit doesn't require extensive airport improvements, just better transport connectivity. Something I think is unique about Humberside Airport is that it's actually owned by the regional airline that uses it as its hub, Eastern Airways. This is somewhat unique as it means that the success of Eastern Airways is dependent on the success of Humberside. There's an incentive to make Humberside even more of a hub. And the best way to do that is to just extend its catchment area further across the region by providing ways of getting there other than by car. And a railway connection is probably the best way to do that. The good news is that Humberside is already well positioned to take advantage of links that are already running next to it. It's near a railway line, and as I'll show, a spur to serve the airport would be very short and easy to build. Because Humberside Airport and Eastern Airways own their own land, the land acquisition likely won't be an issue. And Humberside Airport, it's important to remember, isn't just an airport. There's businesses that use the campus, there's hotels, potential to use this for more events and the like. A railway connection to the airport would benefit a lot more than just airport passengers. And going into that, this is what the airport connection would look like. The actual new infrastructure needed to connect the airport to the railway network, thankfully, would only require about 2 kilometres of new track on flat, undeveloped lands. We go to Barnetby, which, for a station with its level of service, seems kind of overbuilt with 4 platforms. But that's good for us because it means plenty of extra space to build our airport connection. Trains going to and from the airport will use platform 4 here. Going onwards, this part of the line is triple tracked, and the service will go along what is currently the existing freight siding on the south side of the line. That will go up to the Caister Road level crossing, at which point that track will branch off on a single track line towards the airport in a straight line right across the edge of this farmer's field. You can kind of see here how the amount of land disruption needed to make the thing is quite minimal, which is a positive for this project. Upon entering the airport, the station will be built where today is car park free. In my experience, car park free is empty most of the time, so there's pretty much no value lost by transforming it into a station. Quite the opposite. From the station, it's just a short walk right into the airport terminal building. For the station itself, I think it can be simple, though a waiting room would be highly beneficial for it. I think about 3 platforms supporting trains of up to 5 or 6 cars should cover all of the potential service the station will see in the long term. So with a station built quite easily, that's useless if we don't have services to go to it. And thankfully, there are also several candidates for easy extensions into the station. First, the current 2-hourly Sheffield to Scunthorpe's line could easily be extended to terminate at Humberside Airport instead. This line is local, it goes through Sheffield, Scunthorpe and Doncaster, and having the airport as its terminus would be a great draw for passengers on that end of the line. This would probably be the main line that goes into the airport, just due to how massively it expands the catchment of the airport to several major cities. We can do a bit better than that as well. As of current, there is an irregular Newark Northgate to Lincoln service that basically runs when the LNER London to Lincoln service isn't, in order to get people to the East Coast Main Line. This is another easy candidate to extend to the airport. You manage to connect the airport to Lincoln as well, and you can potentially attract passengers from the southern part of the East Coast Main Line, even to London. I think in the long term, there is the potential to invite some intersea services to the station, day one, but I think building the station so that they can accept those longer 5 or 6 car trains would be beneficial. Overall, these services would now suddenly give Humberside Airport a catchment area that goes well beyond Humberside and into major cities, Lincoln, Doncaster, Sheffield. Building up Humberside's catchment area is the main way it can build up users at this point. And this is the most cost-effective, simple way of doing so. But the benefits don't just apply to the airport, because I believe building this airport station also opens up the way of enabling more reliable and practical railway services across the region as well. For example, as of right now, there's no railway depot around the Grimsby or Lincoln area for East Midlands trains. This is a problem if there's disruption, because the nearest depot for their local services is all the way in Nottingham. Trains have to travel quite far on mornings and nights to get to the service, and if there's disruption, then this region is more prone to cancellations. An airport station would enable a depot in the Barnetby area, such as in these currently quite empty freight sidings. And from there, That's much more reliable, much more easier operations in the East Midlands area, even on services that don't go to the airport. There's also the enigma of the Brig branch. This has been an awkward kind of mothball branch for a while now. That doesn't see any service except on Saturdays. I think ideally a Sheffield, Gainsborough, Grimsby local line is probably the best use of the service. But perhaps with an airport station, being able to serve the airport could be a good stopgap for that, ensuring that people in Gainsborough have a way of getting to the airport quite conveniently, which is yet another example of expanding the station's catchment area. But overall, it is important to stress that this is not just an airport express service. It will bring practical benefits across the East Midlands railway network, and it is worth pursuing for that alone. Overall, a rail link to Humberside Airport feels like it will bring together benefits that are massively outsized compared to the amount of investment and the scale of the project. A regional airport with a reach across the East Midlands to several major cities, improved rail connectivity and operations across the region. This is a small idea that will benefit a lot of people and organisations, and I hope it's an idea with the potential to earn a lot of support. Thank you for listening.